Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Well, here I am again, sitting on the settee. This time I'm looking out through the patio and I can see some blue sky, but quite a lot of clouds, so no doubt we've got another Shirley Temple weather system coming towards us. By towards us, I mean that we're here in the UK and we're an island surrounded by water, and of course with climate change, the Shirley Temple weather system that I'm referring to is one low after another, looking like Shirley Temple's ringlets. Anyway, enough of being jolly about this. I've asked Google what procrastination means, and I'm now going to tap it and read what it says. Procrastination is the avoidance of doing a task which needs to be accomplished. It's a practice of doing a more pleasurable things in place of less pleasurable ones, or carrying out a less urgent task instead of a more urgent one, thus putting the impending task off to a later time. Thank you very much indeed, Google. I don't know what we'd do without you. So if we look at procrastination, I'm going to read a document that you will then be able to zoom into verbatim. So do bear with me. I'll try and make it as entertaining as possible. The eye of the needle. It is easier for a camel to pass through the eye of a needle than a rich man to enter the kingdom of heaven. Or so it is said. So what are the 400 members of the world's US dollar billionaires club doing with their combined wealth estimated at 1.24 trillion? And what should they really be doing which would set an example to the lesser mortals to follow? Playing Robin Hood. Having made stratospheric amount of money from the consuming millions, they now wish to give back to the non-consuming millions so they too can be seduced into consumerism. And once hooked, leaves their laissez-faire existence behind to seek work to feed their new habit, even if it means 16 tons, and what do I get? Another day older and deeper in debt. I owe my soul to the company store. The eye of the needle is an irrelevancy if we lose the planet to a runaway greenhouse effect. In this emotive statement, I'm not referring to the release of uncountable amounts of CO2 from various sources, including the now exposed permafrost of the northern hemisphere, where the not-so-shining, fast-receding ice sheet. Oh no, the new player has entered the arena and he plays real dirty. It's our old friend and adversary, CH4 methane, which, as any earth scientist will tell you, is 25 times worse than CO2. The genie of CH4 methane is escaping from its bottle, not to do our bidding, but to follow the Earth's violent climate change cycle. Prisons come in all shapes and sizes. CH4 methane prison has been a spongy rock held in compression by eons of ice. As the ice melts and the pressure lessens, CH4 methane escapes from its hydride and bubbles to the surface to float, not so harmlessly, into the atmosphere, to seal the fate of mankind. What can be done and what should be done? CO2 must be extracted from the atmosphere. Now all the people on this planet should pay 200 local currency units, however that is defined, to the now responsible oil companies and their like, to build the plant to do just that, and then trap the extracted CO2 in seawater and pump it into dry oil wells. The eye of the needle is now put with a misquotation, to put fire out by pouring oil on it. By oil I mean coal, lovely, dirty, CO2 producing coal. Yes, pile it high, and here we go, and burn it clean, no CO2, and use the energy to drive the kit that will extract CO2 from the atmosphere. If, and it's a big if, this is done, then the atmosphere, with its reducing CO2 levels, will stop the ice sheets from melting, and CH4 methane genie stays trapped in its bottle, hydride. We count our blessings for having the brain that has dominated over all the other God's creatures. The eye of the needle is the gap between the two clip faces on the biblical trade route. As it is a solid rock, it is still in place today. The time span to start extracting CO2 from the atmosphere should have been done and dusted yesterday. And the 1.245 trillion question can be commissioned and put into action in the shortest timescale to save our planet. One and only one, the ability to burn coal with zero pollution on a fluidized bed, direct the screamed hot gases streamed into a modified jet engine combustion chamber to drive the electrical generating set. Call the above a CO2 extraction model. Divide the world's resources of mass production of such modules on a scale only seen before in the Earth's history, when it was ships, planes, tanks that rolled off the assembly lines to use in a fight against the evil that would have enslaved us all. If, and it's not if, it can be done, it must be done, not in 5 years, not in 3 years, but the module should be in use from 2 years from now. No talking, just action, no procrastination, just taxation to save the global nation. I commend this blog to you, all I hold dear. Richard Vere Compton, copyright the 22nd of the 9th, 2006. And what have the global procrastinations people have done in the last, say, 16 years? Absolutely nothing. So we come right up to date in London to this. Another wonderful piece of PR, which is the start of more procrastination. It says here, the lower carbon clean air joined up the climate change and air quality agenda. And we read in it, climate change and air pollution are serious threats to human health and well-being and the wider environment. Emissions and greenhouse gases are pollutants. And it goes on and on and on. And everybody is congratulating themselves on how they finally decided to get together and hold hands and say, aren't we wonderful? Meanwhile, I bring you back to this piece of paper. And it's called Welcome to Jail. That's tongue-in-cheek, but as Snowden spilt the beans on, shall we say, surveillance by the CIA and various other agencies in the United States, and has now sought sanctuary, shall we say, in Russia. I don't know really where he is. So this is my get into jail card. Hi all. In this post I'm using a hot desk, so I must be quick. Did the UK government, back in the start of the 1960s, with the test rig Zeta, which was used for fusion research, discover by accident that a pellet of frozen seawater holds deuterium needed for fusion, that a high current converted the seawater into large amounts of high-test peroxide, H2O2, but 99% hydrogen with a small part of oxygen. This conversion process gave up large amounts of heat energy. The high-test peroxide then passed over or through a mineral catalyst, then converted it to steam at high temperature and high pressure. The high pressure, high temperature energy was then used in the hot end of a centrifugal jet turbine that had all its shaft bearings replaced to run at very high loads and high speeds. This then gave us a lead over the Americans when it came to using gas centrifuges to enrich uranium-235 to the value of 90%. The above proved by default that over-unity could be achieved by passing a very high current through sea fresh water. And in 1995, an Oxford University professor, Peter Granu, carried out a scientific study that proved without ambiguity that over-unity is the result of exploding water using an electrical arc current plasma. I close this note. So back in the 1960s, when oil was just a few dollars a barrel, the British research and development people discovered that a world could run on water and all R&D on fusion should be stopped. So what did they do next? They got the world to help build JET, the Joint European Torus. A world run on water should not be a subject too hot to handle. So, there we have it. We have procrastination, we have diversions, and now every day the press is full of somebody else saying, we must do, we must do, we must do, but nobody does anything about it. I now quote from Richard Lanyard, who is the writer and director of the Wellbeing Programme for the London School of Economics, the Centre of Economic Performance, in which he states quite categorically, and he too was at the conference in Paris on climate change, to find an energy to save the earth, we must shoot for the moon. Wonderful ideals, but what is he actually saying? He is saying the world spends 100 billion subsidizing private production of renewables using inadequate technology that are now available. We can surely spend 15 billion on transforming research and development. What he is saying is the amount of money used to go to the moon should be diverted to new technologies to save the planet, to save the human race, and to give us the technology we need, wait for it, to go to Mars, to terraform Mars, so we have a lifeboat on which the human race will survive. So what have I attached? 2 small paragraphs. And this is what I ask for. The project to be funded to the tune of 100 Great British pounds to build a test rig to study the energy efficiency of small amounts of diesel fuel or any other substance that has a euthermic value, even when carried at a very high water pressure, at say 207 bar. The next move is to add a very high DC electrical current of 800 to 1000 amps, say 75 volts. The aim is to harvest the explosive gas of hydrogen oxidized by ozone to prove without ambiguity that shaft horsepower can safely be harvested in such a way that no CO2, no NOxes enter the atmosphere. The test rig will prove without ambiguity a world run on water should not be a subject too hot to handle. I then have written in my best dyslexic scrawl, play first Pandora's box and then contact me Verchin, VERCHIN @hotmail.com. I have then enclosed a cover of my DVD in which is written, Leonardo da Vinci gave us sketches, Richard Compton gave us conceptual engineering. And what is conceptual engineering? Conceptual engineering is the idea where you have a brilliant idea and then you procrastinate over it until you have fine-tuned it, i.e. you start with the idea, it's a stroke of genius, it is that eureka moment, but then you step back from it and say, how can it be done? What is the engineering needed? And you start scribbling on paper, sketches after sketch, looking at ways to build it, to turn it into reality without actually spending any money. So here we have something called a coffee time challenge. I looked at a problem, as Google puts it, London's blow-up pavements. And this I'm going to wave at the camera, and you can see a little extract there of London's pavements blowing up. And basically, I asked a rhetorical question. Could you extract shaft horsepower from exploding water? My linear thought pattern suggested that if a magneto could be used to create a continuous change of sparks to ignite a volatile hydrocarbon vapor, then why shouldn't a high current, low voltage electrical short circuit explode a discharge of water at high pressure through two hollow electrodes in a manner similar to igniting a volatile hydrocarbon vapor? But this time, the explosive dissociation of water into hydrogen gas oxidized by short-lived ozone as the high current mutates the oxygen atoms into ozone gas as if it was a lightning discharge in miniature. Or, in my words, a continuous self-repairing fuse producing a plasma gas of burning hydrogen oxidized by ozone to produce the equivalent of combusted rocket fuel, which by its very nature must produce a plasma thrust jet which would feed through a given number of thrust jets, which we will call a micro Catherine wheel turbine. This brings me to a similar illustration with explanatory notes. This summary is a reaction chamber in a balanced micro turbine flywheel ramped up to a given RPM before the water at 25 cc is injected from both the left and the right at, shall we say, 300 bar, giving an impact of 600 bar and exploding 50 cc's of water into a plasma gas to drive the turbine. This brings us neatly to a parallel of a magneto. That being the case, one DC brush motor will generate the plasma current, whilst the second brush DC motor will top up the chemical storage medium of the pure electric car, giving us a range extender that runs on water with no air present, so no products of nitrogen chemical chain. And as if to rub salt into the wound, here it is, the EWE, the explosive water engine, which now takes me neatly onto my second piece of paper, which is called an offer of involvement. Now, what I'm shaking around in front of you was thrown down as a gauntlet to all the people sitting on the panel at, you guessed it, at the lower carbon, clean air, joined up climate change and air quality agenda. What I did was to threaten them indirectly in the nicest possible way with my tongue in my cheek with an offer of involvement. Now, I want you to read between the lines before I rub your nose in it as to who this piece of paper was aimed at. An offer of involvement. In this offer of involvement, I, Richard Vere Compton, state on record that this document falls outside any clause which might be covered by the regulations appertaining to the supply of financial services. On that understanding, the reader is invited to read on. Money is made by entrepreneurs for their coat-tail investors by providing goods and services to a niche market, till that market is controlled by just a few big players. This has come about by a process of rationalization which has given way to consolidation, as the strong have grown stronger and the weaker have fallen by the wayside. Money will always chase money. To this end, this offer of involvement will lay before those who move money about. A prime example of this is a paradox in its own right. Golf, which at the bottom end of the income scale is played just for fun, or at least a round of drinks, in the euphemistically called 19th hole. At the top, it's played by people who wish to network with each other to be in on the next big thing, investment opportunity. One such individual, through his entrepreneurial spirit, built a billion-dollar empire on the simple philosophy of providing the world's high rollers with goods and services tailored to their individual needs, which include creating an environment which would cocoon them from the nitty-gritty of lesser mortals' lives. With this offer involvement comes a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to join the high rollers when we supply them with a chance to be part of the next big thing, so that they might leave their footprint in the setting cement of saving the environment, not for the next generation, but for generations to come. Your role as a viewer of this video clip and possible assignee to update a patent application, this time for the EWE, the explosive water engine, will be to provide goods and services to help my team so that we might all see the launch of the EWE, the explosive water engine, onto the world stage, through a high-profile launch of seeing a 15-inch gauge ride-in railway laid out in such a way as to be seen to travel around a golf course, fairway by fairway. The traction unit will capture the imagination of the global viewing public as they see the water tanks filled not with fresh water, but salt water, seawater, which through the patented technology of the EWE will not only provide power to pull a number of luxury VIP coaches, which as part of their fit-out will include powerful binoculars to bring the not-so-distant players right up close to be follow the live action, drive by drive, putt by putt. This technology will not only convert seawater to fresh water, but will extract energy at one and the same time. This leads to the big question: should a world run on water be a subject too hot to handle? Should the reader wish to proceed, or the viewer, then I will sign an in-house NDA, non-disclosure documents, which allow me to lay out chapter and verse on your involvement as a possible assignee on the new patent application for the updated version of the EWE, which would not only drive a 15-inch gauge train round golf courses scattered around the globe, but would lead to a gradual demise of the hydrocarbon-powered age, as the EWE moves centre stage to brew cheap green power to cover the arid lands with oceans of fresh water. Signed by me, Richard Vere Compton, on the 24th of the 2nd, 1944, and witnessed by X. And of course, the 24th of the 2nd, 1944, would make me 72. So you can see, with all the procrastination that has been going on in my entire lifetime, I am getting very frustrated. So I would rather be imprisoned for blowing the beans and the lid off the fact that back in the 60s, the British government knew that it could run the entire world on water and did nothing about it. And so consequently, all the problems we have today can be laid at our doorstep. As you sow, shall thee reap. I will now await the knock on the door. Thank you very much indeed for watching. It is now up to you to decide whether a world should run on water and we should say goodbye to the hydrocarbon age, and we should now be in a position that climate change and air pollution are serious threats to human health and well-being and the wider environment. Emissions of greenhouse gases, air pollutants, common cause and solutions. Consequently, policies designed to deal with the negative effects should be considered both together. We will work together to help the government ensure that it meets its legal obligations for climate change and air quality. We recognise there's a wide range approach to achieve these. The aim of the communique is to focus on contributions of low-emission vehicles and fuels. There are industrial and economic opportunities for the UK. This is a major industrial economic opportunity for the UK to be in the vanguard of the technologies and innovation and markets appropriate to the technology to open up in response to the establishment of wide-ranging international agreements for tackling climate change and pollutions and emissions. A well-designed policy considering the twin challenges of climate change and air pollution will lower the total investment required to meet them. A common assessment and method are essential. A common standards are needed to define on vehicle and fuels in terms of their impact, both carbon emissions and air quality. Assessments method must be measured impact in both ensure policies and are complementary and do not conflict. An improved national network, on and on and on. Have I not just told you all how to run the world on water? Thank you very much indeed.
Are we all so selfish that we choose to ignore a beautiful world that will soon be no more? Are we all so greedy that we strip our land bare? Our proud tall trees will lie down in despair. We believe we can change, oh Lord. We believe we can change, oh Lord. We feel the pain that's raging in your heart. Hear us, help us play our part. Will we love those blue skies? The sunshine burns us out. Save our clouds and tomorrow's deathly drought. Learn to love our homelands, value clouds